Do you think that there's some universal force running the cosmos? Is it connected to in any way with God from earthly religions? Well, I think the perception of certainly the Old Testament religion and other religions, I think that's another inversion. Because I think what many religions, not all of them necessarily, no, but what many religions perceive as God is actually this hidden hand, this psychopathic force. I mean, just have a look at the Old Testament God, right? Not a nice bloke, is he? All the death and destruction and bloodlust that he desires. And as I say in my books, if you look at Genesis and the creation of the world, I say that is symbolic of the creation of the Matrix that we live in. And so that God creating the Matrix is not the God that Christians and Jews think they're worshipping in terms of the Old Testament tyrant they call God. But for me, awareness, infinite awareness, is infinite possibility. And therefore, within that infinite possibility, you're going to have psychopaths and you're going to have people who, or expressions of that are the opposite. But from my own understanding, we live in a particular reality that is, well, basically, it ticks virtually every box of the biblical hell. Do we go to hell or are we in hell from a religious perception point of view? Because I've yet to come across anyone who had a near-death experience who really wanted to come back, because where they were was so different and so lovely and so nothing like here. So I think the enormity of infinite existence is one of love and one of joy and one of bliss, but we've got caught in a state of awareness that is living a very different reality to the one that people describe when they leave the body and leave this band of frequency. And I think that there are people that have specifically come here to try to either hold connection to beyond the program or to regain that connection once it's been lost, to actually point out to people that this world is not how they think it is and they are not how they think they are, and actually they're living in a prison cell thinking it's a free world. Where are we? Information is everywhere, but fake news is permeating the media, especially the internet. Should we believe everything we see on TV or newspapers or in the newspapers? How and where to search for reliable information nowadays? Well, within yourself. You know, does it feel right to you? Does it make sense? Research what is claimed and see if you agree with the conclusions and the claims that you're reading. Take personal responsibility for the information you believe and don't believe. I mean, clearly from the experience of lifetimes, the best thing to do with the mainstream media is to believe absolutely nothing, as with politicians, and start from that point of view. Now, you will find that some things they're telling you are true, okay. But you'll find the vast majority of things they're telling you are either absolutely not true or are skewed and twisted, or are not put in the context necessary to truly understand their significance. So if you're dealing with the mainstream media, they don't believe anything until you've checked it out. And if it checks out, well, fair enough, but most of the time it won't. And, you know, people say, oh, well, you know, I've got work to do, I've got a family to bring up, I can't just check everything. Well, okay, I understand that. But in that case, don't believe anything. It's what I call put it on the back burner. So if you read something in the media and you've not got time to check it out, then put it on the back burner. Don't believe it, don't disbelieve it. Don't let it affect your life. Don't let it affect your perceptions until you have checked it out. Otherwise, if we go on just believing what the mainstream media tell us, which are what? Corporations controlled by the same hidden hand that controls governments and banks and corporations of all kinds, then we'll just go on being deceived, because that's what the mainstream media is there to do. It's there to deceive us. And just like every other organization, it's deeply compartmentalized. So the overwhelming vast majority of journalists have no idea that they're deceiving people. They think they're telling the truth. Well, great numbers of them do. But remember, journalists, like politicians, have been through the postage stamp consensus programming. So that they are reporting the world from what they think is normal, but actually is manipulated perception of reality. So by that very nature, we shouldn't believe what mainstream journalists tell us until we've checked it out. And that's the same, by the way, with the so-called alternative media. I mean, the alternative media is not just one entity, it's a vast spectrum. I mean, you know, Breitbart is called the alternative media. You couldn't get any different in the way we see the world between Breitbart and DavidIcke.com, but we're both called the alternative media. It's not the same thing. And, you know, great chunks of the so-called alternative media are just mainstream light. Some parts of the alternative media, as they're called, are virtually indistinguishable from the mainstream. Then you go right across to people like me who are questioning everything. And they're all called the alternative media, but they're not all the same. And what they say needs to be checked out as well. Everything must be. Number 10, in Poland there's a long discussion about pharmaceutical industry policy, vaccination problem and alternative therapies. What do you think about the future of medicine? Should doctors pay more attention to soul and not only to biochemical processes? Well, of course they should, but you see, we're in another important area here, because in many ways this whole pharmaceutical arena tells the story of all that I've been talking about here, because it is a microcosm of the macrocosm. It's a part of the web, and thus operates like the web itself, because the web is holographic. If you look at holograms, every part of a hologram is a smaller version of the hologram. It's one of the unique characteristics of holographic, the holographic process. And therefore, each part of the web operates like the web itself. And the pharmaceutical industry is a wonderful example. It is focused on the scalpel and the drug. And what is the scalpel and the drug focused upon? It's focused upon the human body being physical, when it actually exists in that form only in a few centimeters at the back of the brain, where we decode visual reality. Vaccinations are not there to stop people being ill. They're made there primarily to undermine the human immune system, and therefore humans fall for medical health problems that a strong immune system would have sorted out. And of course, even on the level of money, and it's well much deeper than money, but even on the level of money, the more sick people there are, the more drugs they will consume, and the more money the pharmaceutical industry will make. I've got a meme that I put on the internet, which basically says those that make their fortunes from people being sick are the same people that tell you how to be well. I mean, this is another inversion. It's crazy. So vaccinations have been accepted by people, just accepting that authority knows best. But now more and more people are questioning vaccinations, are refusing to have them and let their children have them. And this is why we've got now this gathering pressure for mandatory vaccinations, where the state says we are going to decide what goes in your body and your children's bodies. Because while you agree to do what the system wants, there's no need to make anything mandatory. Once you start disagreeing and not doing it, then they move in to make it mandatory, because there is an agenda for the undermining of the human organism, or the human body, in terms of its health, and the real place where the dis-ease, disharmony is happening is not in what we call the physical body. It's in its waveform information fields beyond human sight. That's where the real problems occur. And if the information field is distorted or in a state of disharmony, then that will play out in the decoded realm of the holographic body, which is just a projection of the waveform information field. And therefore, what the vast majority of alternative practitioners do in their various ways and techniques is not look at the physical body, but target the energetic body, the information fields from which the body that we perceive as physical, the holographic body, is only a projection. If you get the information fields in harmony, then the body we perceive as physical must be in harmony, it must be in health. And what happens is these pharmaceutical products like vaccines and these drugs, they are, if you saw them, because everything in the end is energy and information, if you saw them on their energetic level, you would see massive distortions, distorted energetic states. So when you think that you're taking a pill or having a vaccine, what's actually happening at the core level is that a distorted information field is being introduced to your body information field. And that distortion is passed on to the body field, which then is played through to the projection, which is the physical body that we decode into that form through the brain. It's all happening on a waveform level. The brain is a waveform phenomenon in its base form. It's all happening there. But we perceive it in the holographic world, the so-called physical world, to be solid and real. It's like watching a movie. You know, you can watch a movie and it seems to be happening on the screen, but the screen is just a projection, or picking up a projection of where it's really coming from. It's the same principle. And so what you have now is more and more imposition of the products of the pharmaceutical industry and a global war against alternative forms of medicine and alternative forms of healing, because they don't want people targeting the waveform level of the body and actually healing it. They want the illusion of the drug and scalpel industry, which invariably makes things worse, not better. That's why the biggest form of death, or the biggest cause of death in America, is treatment in its various forms. Whether it's drugs, whether it's things going wrong in operations, whether it's things that you pick up in hospitals, Whatever, all these different forms put together, the biggest form of death, cause of death in America, is the treatment, and that's only where it's reported. The real scale of death by doctor is massively greater than is actually recorded because of all the times that there is a problem, there's a mistake, there's an error, but a different cause of death is put there instead of the real one. Add all those in, and death by doctor is staggering. Finally, so how to stay calm and conscious in this noisy, corrupt, heartless world? Well, don't be corrupt and don't be heartless. And then you won't be affected by the vibration, the frequency, the impact of a heartless and corrupt world. We have the power to choose how we interact with this reality. We can do it with integrity, we can do it with calmness, we can do it in a way where we open our heart and we have compassion and empathy, or we can be psychopathic. It's our choice. And that choice, collectively, will decide if we're heading for paradise or we're heading for global psychopathic fascism. And that choice has to be made now. It can't wait any longer.